One would wonder, what are you going to do with all the trees? Well, I have here, I believe it's 16 mulberries. I had 148 seeds. I put them all in the capsule, and half of them germinated. So when they germinated, I put them in soil, and of the ones I put in soil, half of them continued to grow. And these 16 here are half of what was in the sunroom. I still have the others in the sunroom, except for I lost 3, I believe it was. And the ones that are still there are little tiny things. They didn't grow very much. Now, I put them out here, and some of them has sun scald. You see the 2 leaves on that one. And leaf here. Some of them, like this one over here, nothing at all. The sun didn't bother them. And this one here. Now the thing is, they all got the same treatment. And what I need to find is what of these seeds has the strongest genetics. So now they're sitting here for, let's say, they'll probably only sit here about a year, might be 2. I'll still be able to dig them up. And by that time, I'll know what are the strongest of these. And I'll put the strongest one in the food forest close to the house. And all the rest, depending on their strength, I guess, I'll decide where to put them. But they'll be back up on the back of the property, and what survives, survives. I will put the strongest genetics where I want the trees to grow the most. This is the birch leaf pear trees. So they're still really tiny, but they look like they are going to be tough little critters. I think I lost one since I put them out there, and that's that one right up in the far corner. But the rest of them, they haven't started to grow again since I put them there almost a week ago now. But they are still holding on, and so I assume that they're going to take hold here fairly soon. Yeah, so let's talk about the food forest today. I have those seeds that sprouted in that 40-cell tray over in the raised bed. I put them here. Looks like one of the plum seeds is not going to make it, and this is one of the cherry seeds right here that seem to be dying. But that one's sitting there nicely, and there's 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the plum tree. See, 1, 2. We've got another one right there, and another one right there. So let's actually talk about installed trees now that will have some resemblance, and some of them full blown, of a food forest. And I'm coming here. This is a lilac bush, of course, not anything that produces food. Boy, it produces a scent though. I need to make some essential oils from lilac. Now, but underneath here, you see, the cardboard method don't work here. It's because of the seed, the types of plants that grows there, where I don't have just grass like you find in a city. But what I want to do is eventually I'll get a base of wood chips down so that the weeds are easy to pull out, but then I'll clear it back and I'll plant vines. And I was thinking about it earlier today, and I do have 2 seeds that I can plant here now, and they have plenty of time to go to maturity. I've just put them, I've got 10 of each, and I just dropped one. The white ones are Stringless Blue Lake, and the darker ones are Tender Green Improved. So I'm going to plant them around the base here. I want the vines to climb up this lilac and see what it looks like with the bean vines up in the lilac and the beans hanging down. So I'll just poke them in. I'm not worried about ooze-oo. I'll make sure I water them this evening because I have to water this section this afternoon. Well, that's the idea there. I'm going to be eventually getting this. I haven't really been tending to it, that's why all the weeds are there. But eventually have a clearing underneath this for annual viney type plants. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I wish I could get this thing back to health. But for now, there it sits. It did leave out and then the leaves died, and it'll probably leave out again later and the leaves will die. I'll eventually get some other little bush to put there. I can't put a tree there because septic tank is right there. I don't mow my meadow all at once. Mow it half one time, half another. And you can see all the wildflowers that grows along here. Pollinators love that, of course, and the broadleaf plants are for the snowshoe hares to eat. And now we're coming up to the border of the food forest proper. I did put in pegs along the border. I have a lovage plant planted here. Here's a red maple that's going to stay. And if this lovage plant goes to its potential, then it will come up to the top of this fence, maybe a little higher, and it will be growing out through the fence. At about a 3-foot span, so 1.5 feet either side of where he is now. And I planted the St. John's wort right there. The 2 Goji chinenses I brought down and planted here. So now I'll walk back. I'm going directly south. You got the roadway there, and if I come forward now and face directly west, these will get full sun pretty much all day. And it's kind of a drier area, and I think that's what the Gojis need. Wet is bad for them, and well, I'll show you one of the firecrackers wire I'm saying I gotta have them out in full sun. This is not part of the food forest, of course, but this is what I'll have. A lot of these vines. That's a female flower right there. So that's the first female flower coming out. I will soon have them producing setting fruit. So they're working excellent here in the food forest. Put your squash vines or zucchini, pumpkin. Romeo cherry. It had some flowers on it. And there's this thing right here. I don't know if it's going to grow out to be a full cherry or no. It's yet to be seen. burning bush. Remember, I wrapped it for the winter and I was hoping to get a bunch of blooms on it, but apparently not. All I got is this one here. It's for a smoke bush, purple smoke tree, or bush. So there's the bloom's supposed to be way huger than that, and no, that's what I got. Juliet is hanging on. She'll get herself together at once. So look at this. It's nice, isn't it? It looks good now. I cut off the top that had died because of the snowshoe hares. And then I had to cut this piece off right here. So now it's looking good. And the pegs now, I got pegs going in. So they form that pathway that I'm going to mow into the bridge there, and comes out again around the maple tree. Underneath this maple tree, I did clear this out. I have a lavender. It's not growing that well, but it's growing there. And I have this one here as well. These strawberry plants are plants that I planted there. I bought them from Bessie's. They're regular ever-bearing strawberries. The dock, without any attention at all, that's it. This one is going to seed already. When I actually get to the point that I'm clearing this and that gets some attention, it will actually grow to a very nice plant. This is an oregano, not doing much in the shade of the tree. I don't know if it will ever do much or not. That's yet to be seen. Another one of the strawberries. There's something else I planted there, but I can't remember what it was. It didn't grow anyway. Now, speaking of gojis in shade, that's this one. It's one of the Firecracker Gojis, and it's got a few leaves there. It's got a couple leaves down there. It's the last to leave out, first to lose its leaves. I'm going to transplant this. I'm going to move it up. I'll show you when I get there. Here's the second pear tree. Cut him off, and look, he's growing like crazy. That shoot is right down on the graft. I think I should take it off, because what that's going to be is whatever the rootstock is. So I can't really let that grow. I was watching a video from another Food Force channel, and in the comments someone was saying they wanted a forsythia, and I'm thinking, well, why would you want a forsythia? But then I thought about it. Of course, these are two forsythias. You got one there and one here. And as you can see, they grow as shoots right from the ground level all the way up. And if they're properly taken care of, then the shoots get fairly straight. They are just as good as a willow for making your wattle fencing and that. And if you get a thicker straight one, you could probably even use it for a short fishing pole. So that is a useful plant in the sense that it sends up long straight canes right from the ground, and you can see how tall it gets. I mean, it's that one is, say, 10 feet tall. This one here, he grows bigger, so you can get a good 12-foot cane off of those. Underneath those on this planting, there's strawberries here. And here the strawberries didn't take for some reason. I planted a St. John's wort and a lovage, which will pretty much fill in this whole area right here. Once again, so around the second pear tree, the pegs come and they go in. On this side I've got some rocks lining the border. And there's the causeway. I haven't done anything with this causeway, but I am going to. It drains out. It's draining again there now. But that was the height that it was up, and when it rained, it almost come to the top of this dam here. I have plenty of pond there right now for frogs to lay in and live in, but I'm still going to do more. Down this end, there is water in there. I put down one layer of sod on the other end, and you often hear the birds. You can't see them because of the vegetation growing up around, but the small birds love to get in there and bathe. When we come across the causeway, this is something that I can partially do nothing about. You see the bumps on this berry. It's caused by a fungus. Now this is the Canadian Serviceberry, chocolate pear. There's a bunch of different names. Saskatoon berry is another one name. Every year they get that. It's called the cedar apple rust. The cedar name comes from, it was first diagnosed in a juniper tree that was mistakenly named a cedar. So it has nothing to do with cedar tree. It's junipers. The fungus lives in the bark of juniper trees, and its spores is sent out in the spring. It infects the blossoms of apple family trees. Now there are different varieties. Some will infect apples, some will infect, as in this case, Serviceberry. There are some that will even infect strawberries. So I'm lucky in the fact that I got the one that infects Serviceberry and not infects apples, because that would make me really sad. But there is a ton of these trees around. That's one here that's really close by that I can easily take care of. So technically I could spray this one for the fungicide in the spring and get a crop from it, and just take care of this tree. However, you see the darker bark trees that's around this spruce, they're all Serviceberry. The birds would take the berries from the other Serviceberries, of course, and then they're doing their dirt water sitting up in the tree, and the rain would wash the seeds down. So all around the drip edge of that spruce, there's Serviceberry growing out. This is the critter. We have a prostrate juniper that grows everywhere around here. Trying to, get rid of the juniper. Yeah, right. Good luck with that. Let's see if I can find you some of that rust I'm talking about now. I did find it last year. And juniper makes a really delicious tea. You just clip part of these with the green needles on the ends of the the growing tips. You see here's a new growing tip, so you clip a bunch of these growing tips and you put it in water and boil it for a bit and you have a delicious tea. But right now I'm not finding the fungus that I was telling you about, but it shows up in the crevices of the bark as little bits of rust. So that's why it's called cedar apple rust. This I never showed you on the tour of the annual crops. I put these up here, close to the apple tree on the cliff, and I forgot them for a few days. I lost 3. See, there was 3 more, but these 4, they stood up quite well. And I took the soil that I had by the other 3 and I finished filling up the tires then. This one up here is not doing so well. But as far as I was saying earlier about genetics, I think they're acting like a pretty strong squash plant. This is the vegetable marrow, by the way. And it's putting out quite a few male flowers. Now this is the state which I would expect squash and pumpkin plants to be at now, putting out a bunch of male flowers like that. So to see female flowers on the squash plant already surprises me. And there's a female flower on that one right there. So these are going to be setting fruit early this year for what I've experienced. This apple tree is doing okay. The other one's not so much. There's actually quite a few apples growing on them. Now this is the apple tree that puts out so delicious apples, and they grow really, I mean, big delicious apples on this apple tree. And there's quite a few. So I'll have eating apples. This branch, of course, snowshoe hares, I'll have to cut that off at some point. Now this is where I want, for now, what I'm thinking, a zone 1 or zone 2 area of a permaculture area that you would visit frequently, if not daily, will end just on the other side of this apple tree. There's rhubarb here too. I don't know what variety it is, so I don't know if this is growing good or not. You can see that there's small little bits, and of course the grass is growing up around them. I think I'll take you on a walk down through here. As far as the wilderstead goes, I wish I knew my mushrooms. I don't know if they're edible or not. The bugs are eating it apparently. I'll be curious, do you guys know what mushroom this is? What we're heading for here now is the one other apple tree that I have that I haven't checked on yet. The roadway I sold a strip of land for the cabin owners, so I got a roadway that cuts off this little triangle piece of my property. Oh, now these ripen a little later. But it looks like there's quite a few apples on it. They're good apples if you leave them till like October or something. But if you pick them in early September, they'll be still sharp and bitter. It's the Ida Red. This is the only one I know the variety of. It's an Ida Red apple tree. The Lowbush blueberry patch, now we're back by the Serviceberries, extends down here. And right down until it gets too wet down here by the outflow ditch. And you remember all of the blossoms that were on the bushes earlier. Once these ripen up, there's going to be just as much blue as there is green. Bushes are loaded with berries. Now we're back out into the sun, and so you remember the first Firecracker Goji. This is the second one. And in my opinion, they should be doing just as well, except for the other one is underneath the shade of the maple tree, which is why I want to, of course, move it. And I have a good place to put it. Myra Bland Cherry Plum, they grow to about 20 feet tall. This bush, it's only 2 years old from seed. So it's a very fast growing bush. It's the first thing to leave out and the last thing to lose its leaves. Growing well in my climate. I really hope the plums are delicious. The Chippewa Blueberry, I was walking around and I noticed, see, it's got a couple of blossoms coming out right there, so they're late to produce their blossoms. There's, yeah, just two. It had blossoms when I got it, but I mean, it was coddled in the nursery and everything perfect, so I wasn't expecting to get the blossoms this year actually, but it's got two. So I did this one. This was the area that the mess was. You can see it's a nice specimen of a Myra Bland Cherry Plum there. And I used my edging spade and cut all around and removed all the weeds. I put down some more compost. So I have this cleared right up now. I'm really hoping that this blueberry actually survives. Doesn't look like it is now, but there is some green and there is actually some areas that looks like it's trying to grow. I planted Greek oregano because you see the plum tree that'll grow, like I said, 20 feet high. The berries there and that one's surviving just fine. It'll come along. They grow 6 feet high. It'll probably be maybe 4 feet high here. And they're fairly upright. So I will be able to have a good ground cover underneath, which I've decided I'm going to use the Greek oregano for that. Here's another area where I've got pegs put in. If you remember, I was wanting to put a pathway back to the well. This one doesn't seem to be so loaded in berries as it is most years, but if you look down through it, there's still an awful lot of currants there. and I will get a good harvest. The tree looks beautiful. There was a bush I was thinking about putting here. I can't remember what the name is now. But this is the blue fox willow. That as soon as I put it there, the rabbits, they ate on it, and then they didn't bother with it anymore. But it's still down low. It hasn't really pushed out yet. It just needs some TLC, and it'll be looking good. You can see down here, see all these bits down here? So these pieces might come off after that grows up. And the only other upright willow that I have of that I'm thinking might be of good use is this one that I still haven't keyed out yet. Looks nice when the grass is all mowed, eh? This is a Spirea. It's just an ornamental. Don't know if there's any use for it except for adding to your flower bouquets. It's a nice plant. White currants. Another set of white currants. Red currants. He's laying over. Now this one, I think he's laying over because I had the compost bin here. So basically the only sun he was getting was that way. That's probably why that one's laid out like that. Black currants. And another black currant. This one, I don't know why it's looking like that. But it's not looking healthy. We shall see. So if we go back close to the Spirea again, now this is an onion bush, otherwise known as hascap. And when the season started this year, I said, if this thing is going to produce any amount of berries, it should be this year. It had a perfect season. It warmed up, and this was out in full bloom. We never had any frost. The bugs are out and around. I've seen the bees on this thing, everything. And did I get berries? No, sir. You're looking among them, and every here and there, you find a berry. And in my opinion, they don't taste as good as blueberries. That one's not quite right. So this is a useless bush. Now if you put this in an edge, it actually wouldn't make, if you put a lot of these along in a line, you could probably make a nice looking edge. The bush itself looks nice, but it doesn't produce what it's supposed to produce. As far as the other variety goes, this thing just flops out on the ground. Don't like that one at all, but that was it. I had to have two varieties, so I got that variety and this variety, and nope, don't produce. However, I was wandering around and it makes very big berries compared to the other one. I ate 3 this morning. And they taste like blueberries, but really strong flavored blueberries. So now I'm on 2 minds. I think I should remove them anyway. They don't produce anything really worth talking about. You just get this little taste now and then. And so I put the Romeo cherry there, the one that I cloned, and put the Firecracker Goji right there. as I was doing my walkabout, I noticed a few things. This is a damson tree. Now, in past videos I did mention I had several damson trees planted up on the what I call section 2, and most of them didn't come to anything. There was one that was growing fairly well, but it showed no signs of producing fruit. So I brought one down here, one of its suckers. It had put out several suckers, and I brought one down here to take care of it, but it didn't seem to take. And it grew up, it was 2 years now, it had nothing on it. But as I was doing my walkabout, I noticed it has come back. This one from the roots, this one from the side of the stem right there, and another one from the side of the stem. So I want to let that grow up and see if I could get good damson plums off that tree if it's here close to the house and I'm taking really good care of it. So that being said, I can't put the mulberry tree right here and let it grow to full size, because the mulberry can spread 30 feet, so 15 feet either side of the trunk. You need it to be away from anything that you don't want it to disturb. Damson, I think it's a 10 or 15 foot spread, I can't remember. So at least 10 feet anyway, which is basically what I have there. So I would have to come about right here to let both trees grow to full size. Now the well's over right there, but I am about 20 feet from the well. So if I plant the mulberry here, maybe in a little further, just starting up the slope, I can take down those aspen, and I would leave the pussy willow and let the mulberry tree grow to full size right there, and it would blend right in with the rest of the forest. As I was saying, just as my battery ran out in my camera, I finally got to pay attention to this little guy, the sea buckthorn. And he's just a little tiny guy, just because he was overtopped with the weeds and whatnot here. Now, I water him, so I cleared it all around him. I gave him some more a mulch of compost, and I water him when I do this half of the garden. So hopefully this year he'll take to that and take right off. Very few cherries on this tree. There are some. But I'm not going to get many cherries. Here's one I can bring the camera in close to. This year. The same with the plums. I'll get more plums than cherries, but not many. This, of course, is the golden raspberries. Now I have to set up frames for that during this next week. I'm going to set frames for that, so I'll have a row of raspberries. I'm going to cut a pathway through, and then I'll set another set of frames for when all of these raspberries grows up and fill it out. Cleared out around the sugar maple. One there, and then there's one over right there. They're only 10 feet apart. which is way too close for recommendations, but it's only 2. It's not like I've got a bunch of them all planted 1 feet apart each, so they'll do fine. And if you remember the little stick of a thing that was here earlier in the year, it's a Myra cherry plum, and look at how much it's growing just in the last, what was it, a month? I got the time to put the siding on this side of the in-house and this side. So I just have the back to do now, and of course up around the windows. The back side is where the hole is that the weasel got in. But what I'm going to do before I do the back side of the hen house, I'm going to straighten away this fairly overgrown raspberry patch. I have to process the branches that I sowed from the aspen trees last year, and in the process I'll get stakes out to build the frame that I use for it to go around these. And there was a guy in the community, it's the second time he asked if he can come and get some raspberry canes, and I said sure, but he hasn't come. And as you can see, it's growing right out here, and if he had come earlier I would have given him several canes from this area, and it would have been right back to the edge of the hen house. But now they're all growed out. I'm not going to tear this out. The frame is going to come right out to that gate post. And in behind the raspberry patch is this one. Now if you're making apple sauce or apple butter, that tree makes the perfect apples for it. However, I'm not going to get many off it this year, and I got almost none off it last year. There is the occasional one on there, but I can't find very many. We look up. That's a robin's nest. The robins has built a nest in the apple tree this year. And is she sitting on the nest? No, that's just something she got put in the nest. A red leaf she put in her nest. There it is, a robin's nest. Underneath this apple tree I have rhubarb. This is the same variety as the small skinny rhubarb in the actual bed of rhubarb. It is growing very well. It's just, that's the variety it is. And if you're making jam or something like that, okay, maybe you don't want just skinny things like this. But if you wanted something a little bitter candy to chew on as you're walking around the yard, they're perfect. So this patch of rhubarb will stay here, and every now and then that's what I will be doing. The only thing I have left to say about the well-maintained food forest, Josh from the city stead, he has a quince. So that got me onto, well, what's a quince? And I looked it up. It's actually a good tree for a edible edge or edible fence, and it would mix well with my Osage orange. But it also produces edible fruit, so I will probably, if I can find the seed or the plants, put a couple of them here. And of course there's the cellar. And go across to the hen house, right? So as far as I know, that's all I have to say about the food forest for now. Hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that thumbs up for me. And if you'd like to follow along, make sure you're subscribed. Bye for now.